Howdy, Compelled Unbeliever here. Today we're going to talk about, is it okay for Christians to talk to or be friends with atheists? We're going to look at the Bible and history and look at the different sides of this coin. It just got real. 2 Corinthians 6:14 says, "Do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. For what do righteousness and unrighteousness have in common? What fellowship can lightness have with darkness?" Now, the first part of this is what most Christians refer to. Do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. So let's take a look at that. Now, some Christian faiths or Christians believe that this only has to do with marriage, or it can apply to almost anything in any relationship, including work relationships and so forth. Now, when I was young, my elders at church taught me that you are either of the world or not of the world. And as a Christian being filled with the Holy Spirit, we were not of the world and therefore should not associate with anything that didn't specifically have to do with church or God. Even when I was young, I found this to be very, very difficult to accomplish, as I had to go to school and go shopping or whatever, and I did have to interact with the rest of the world. It got much worse. When I was 17, I went into the United States military, and I was thrown in with all kinds of people with all kinds of beliefs. So I looked to the Bible for solace and to try to figure out how I could do what I had to do and live in the world. One thing is I had absolutely no fear. I was filled with the Spirit, and the Spirit would guide me and protect me. So there really wasn't anything for me as a Christian to fear from the world. Such was my faith. Jesus, Paul, monks, missionaries for millennia had gone into the world and actually converted unbelievers. In Mark 16:15, these words were put on Jesus' lips where he said, "Go into the world and preach the gospel to all creation." So it kind of got difficult, because if you weren't supposed to speak to atheists or unbelievers or those of other faiths, and then at the same time Jesus is telling me to go preach to everybody, no matter who it was. Jesus lived among sinners. Paul, his entire thing was about teaching the gospel to the Gentiles, that is, the unbelievers. So as I began to look at it, I just could not believe anyone that said that do not be yoked with unbelievers, that meant you couldn't talk to anyone, because then how could you preach? If you didn't interact with anyone or earn their trust or build friendships, you could not teach them the gospel. It simply wasn't possible to not have contact with unbelievers and preach to them at the same time. If there was an all-powerful, loving God, would he not want everyone to know about it so that everyone could be saved? If someone actually did want to know the truth, and God was a loving God, would he not want everyone to know what was real and what wasn't real, what was the truth? Then as time went along, I started asking myself harder questions. If there was an all-powerful, all-knowing God, why would he need humans to spread his word in the first place? I realized that I was trying to spread my God's message, and others were trying to spread their God's message, and there were some people that didn't believe anything as far as a God. I realized that unbelievers weren't actually the horrible, evil people that I was told they were by my elders, by my church, by the Christian movement. They were just human beings. I am compelled unbeliever. I no longer believe there is a God.